as far as kind of like what became my signature piece, that style or that type of drawing or like line work that I do, it actually originated from a very like painful place, like in my life, and that drawing was kind of my way of coping and working through it. I was in my early 30s and was living in LA and was horribly a mess again. And, like pushing through, coming out of an abusive relationship, eating disorder in full mode, like full swing, major depression. I was like rock bottom, probably the bottomest of bottoms that I had ever been in my entire life. And drawing I was drawing these ribbons as like a rehabilitation way or just a meditative way to just try to, again, like I was saying before,
like therapy,
like therapy. Yeah. Like just how I could just focus on just that, let some of the voices quiet down a little bit in the back of my head, and it just kind of just try to be okay. And when I would draw them, they'd always, these ribbons are kind of fluid and flowy but when I was drawing them, they always had a knot. There was like a big knot it was basically like fabric, I was drawing fabrics of just things of movement, and again, that's kind of what I visualize when I hear music and when I visualize movement is these ribbons. And at that time, when I first started to seek help and get some therapy and some care, they pulled dance away from me. They're like, you're not healthy enough to dance. And it was like, like I can't breathe. Like, like my dance is everything to me. And I was actually at that time, like overworking out, over dancing, like, not eating and just self-destructing, and, or self-sabotaging. And so for them to say, you can't dance, it was like, I drew this picture of literally like me, like in a box, and this ribbon was like in there with me. And it just kind of like peeked out of this crack of the box, and it was just kind of like trying to get out.
Kind of like a plant, right? Like
in a way, it was like a plant, just reaching for the light, and so I just kept drawing them, but they were always knotted and tangled, and I ended up moving back to the Bay Area and was in a program and kind of rebuilding my life again, and over about a year or so of like rehab or not rehab, but just like therapy. And I was doing art therapy and all these different programs to try to just get my shit back together. My mom noticed one day I showed her some of the projects and she goes, "There's no more knots." And I was like, huh? And I looked and I realized that the latter drawings that I had been doing or paintings and stuff, the knots were gone. And it was kind of like an interesting way of me kind of being like, maybe I'm, not so tangled up inside anymore, and, finding that light again and finding, some peace and balance in my life. And so it was such an interesting thing that I didn't even, it was like subconsciously doing
fascinating.
This. Yeah. And it was leave it to mom, to figure it out. And she's like, where'd the knots go? And I was just like, oh shit. So that was a whole month long of therapy sessions in that alone, like, so what does that really mean?
How do you feel?
How do you feel? Yeah. But, it was it. And so, I have one of the pieces that I drew while I was still like in the outpatient program for the eating stuff. I have it hanging over our TV in our family room as a reminder, because that one has like the biggest knot, and so every day I see that piece and I'm like, I see you, but I know that I'm not there anymore, and so that ribbon, became a lifeline for me. Those ribbons of light are a lifeline. And, I can always kind of check where I'm at based on how those come out sometimes, and for a while I was kind of like, maybe I started doing more artwork and was more established like here back in the Bay. And And, I was kind of looking to switch up my artwork or my style or do some new things. And my husband, he was like, no, dude, you need to keep going with those. Like, they're really dope, and they have a deep meaning, and like, but that's your thing. Like, you got to keep doing that. And I'm just like, yeah, but I don't keep drawing these, He's just like, no, you should keep drawing. And I'm like, okay, so I did, and they've evolved even from that point, and of having the opportunities of doing, a few murals and seeing them change an entire space has been really cool, because it's like they have the intention that I have and that I put in them now, or it's very different. But it's like the piece that I did for UCA Capoeira space. Unfortunately, that burnt down during COVID. That piece, it was like they gave me full artist license. Do whatever you want. We trust you. You do whatever you want. It's family. They were like, we know you can pull this off. I'm like, 50-foot mural, no problem. I could do this.
Yeah, but basically they said, we're not going to get in your way.
Yeah, they were just like, we'll see you on Tuesday, like, enjoy the weekend. Yeah. And because I was like, I'm going to do it in 4 days, and it's crazy. But that piece, was 2 ribbons. And it was kind of like the intentions that I saw and visualized was, 2 people playing capoeira and intertwining. And sometimes it does get a little tangled up when they're playing the game. And then other times it's really big and expansive and breathy. And, it was...
That makes a lot of sense. That's amazing.
That was the story. And, like these pops of color kind of representing some of the music that is also intertwined with it as well within the capoeira. And it translated. And so being in that space when the room was full of people doing capoeira and singing and playing instruments, and it was just like the energy of it was just so alive, and it was just like so it's like not every ribbon stands for the same thing, it's just the intention behind it that's the important part to me. And art is subjective, it might mean something totally different, and ironically it was wild because one of the mestres, Mestre Han, his name is basically like forest frog or something, it's like a frog. And so that's kind of his symbol and logo, and kind of he's known for this. And within that mural, part of it kind of looks like a frog, like looking up, like ready to jump or something. And people were like, did you plan that? And I was just like, no.
Or yeah.
Yeah, I'm all maybe. But it's like center, and it was just so wild. Like what are the chances of that happening and people seeing that, and how symbolic it became. And, it was pretty wild. But yeah, I that was a long tangent. Sorry.
That was perfect.
But yeah, I mean, creating that identity to kind of reel it back, it's been healing to create that identity.